Hey y'all, hey, it's Latasia Wright on my vlog, Space and Grace, where I hope to inspire many others to give God more space in their life so they can experience His grace. And hopefully that starts you on a journey to give yourself more space to grow, make mistakes, excel, and then by experiencing God's grace, give others more grace. And so today I'm talking to you a little bit about just, dying to self, dying to the desires of the flesh, and pretty much giving up your life and picking up the life that God calls you to live. We read in the Bible that God says, any man that holds on to his life will lose it, but whoever chooses the life that basically God laid out for you and for the sake of the gospel will get it. And so living out that can be challenging. And I feel that's like where I am in my life. So talking a little bit about homeschooling, and 2020 has given so many people challenges in different ways, but some of these challenges have really birthed a lot of great things that have been absent from our society, from our families, from our work life, that if you pay attention close enough, you can definitely see the blessings and the challenges in the storm. For me personally, this path has been evolving for a while, and I'll say almost a year now ago, I felt God called me into a place of rest. And I realized where I was pushing for in my career, I don't know if I could sustain it. I don't know where I'm going to go now. I don't know what I really want anymore. But I did feel this pressing and calling from God. And now I'm still walking out what the call is, what direction I'm going. I have more revelation about what He's calling me to do right now. But still, I struggle with the plan I had. Man plans his step, God directs his path, in one version of the Bible. And I'm on that point where it feels like I was on this path and God has put me on a completely different path. I'm used to planning. I have a 5-year plan. I had a 10-year plan. I knew where I was going, what I wanted. Very ambitious, goals set by world standards, learning from the world, learning from the best of the best, and taking up the advice they gave, and it didn't work. It just simply didn't work. So if someone ever asked me, like, why did you just wait and choose this place of a faith walk? I feel like it chose me, and I just had the choice of to surrender or not, because I realized when I looked around me that things I were fighting for weren't coming to pass, and there wasn't really much explanation besides the fact that, like, maybe God isn't in this. And so one of those things is homeschool. I had considered homeschool before, and which is amazing. And I meant to address that. I'm hiding in my daughter's room to record this. #MomLife. Still in a moment by yourself, trying, hopefully not interrupt it, but trying to do this in one take. But anyhow, I had considered the idea of homeschooling before. In the state of our world, I mean, people can imagine 1,000 reasons why people want to consider homeschooling, between the school shootings, teen suicide on the rise, just so many things that you could think about. That'd be like, maybe say school isn't a safe place for my kids anymore. But I decided to go with the traditional route at first. And in 2020, long story short, pushed me into like, well, maybe it's time to try homeschooling. And I'm planning to try it beyond just 2020. When things get back to normal, whatever the new normal is going to be, I'm going to give homeschooling a try. And after much research and benefits and hearing other people's story that has successfully done it and sent kids off to college from homeschooling, why not? But it's not what I planned. I never decided to be a mom that wanted to homeschool. I never had a plan to be a mom that may be a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home wife. I've always had this idea of myself as a corporate working business boss babe diva. And God said no. He sent me in a completely different direction. And right now I believe I'm aligned with what He wants me to do, but still unclear of where exactly I'm going. And that creates a lot of confusion for me sometimes. Like, I'm at peace. I believe I'm where God has brought me to. I believe He's going to use every part of my life up until this point, and everything has a reason or had a reason. And I see some of the reasons, and maybe some of the reasons I don't. But I truly believe at the core, and when I sit with my soul and sit in prayer in God's presence, I believe I am where I am. But what about my flesh? in the Bible, it says the flesh and the spirit are always at war. So I do have these moments of like, am I going crazy? Am I delusional? This is not what you do. You work hard, you do this, you don't wait, you chase your dreams, you have a plan. And I don't have a plan. I have the plan of following Jesus and taking it one step at a time. And I think I believe he has me at a point where it's just one foot in front of the other, one day at a time, not really worrying about 6-10 years in the future, where that's who I am. I've always had a plan. I plan it out. I set goals. I go after them hard, and it's been the heart of my motivation. And now sometimes I'm like, well, what's my motivation now? Jesus, living for God, living to produce fruit that proves me righteous, not proving the striving fleshy right, but all these things. But I felt led to share that even though you could be on the path to following God, if he has you on a complete faith walk, sometimes it feels a little crazy. It feels like, I don't know, like I feel so stripped. I feel stripped and I feel empty, but that's what we're called to be, right? So God can fill us up and use us. And I pray that's where I am. And I pray that I am being obedient to every part. And that doesn't mean you won't get things right. That doesn't mean you may not make the wrong choice, but nothing is wrong in following God and praying to him and getting his grace and his mercy daily. So for that to make sense, God covers and he knows all, he's sovereign, even though we have free will. So sometimes we may make the wrong mistakes, but he uses it all. And long as my faith is, long as I'm getting in his presence and praying to him consistently and continually, I will always be in alignment, and I will feel the convictions when I'm not aligned with what he has called me to do, and he'll eventually get me right back on that path. So I sit here before you, homeschool mom. 2020 has presented this challenge. My husband's not working. I'm not working. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to work. We're going to get him working first and see where that fits. But it feels like I'm supposed to be what God calls the woman to be right now. And that's not everyone's story. So I don't want anybody to feel bad if you're a working mom. And I don't want anybody to go quit their job. If you want to be a working mom, you have to be led by the Holy Spirit. We all have different purposes and call depending on what he has spoken to you in your life. He uses it all. But I also see in my confusion why he's pulled me back. I can see looking back on how I overwhelmed myself, how I neglected one area of my life over the other. I understand how my kids have changed my character. I see how trying to teach them better has helped me become better, has helped me become more kind and gentle and less judgmental and less hard. You know what I mean? So God knows, and it's amazing. I get peace at the end of the day. So I may struggle with, it feels sometimes like you're just a mom. You're just a mom. But this, like my mind, lean out on your own understanding is what I'm thinking. Your mind goes like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be a working mom. Your kids are supposed to go to school. You got to chase the dollar. But God has been sustaining us. So when you ask, like, how do I know I'm on the right path? I'm thinking like, oh, the ship is going to sink. And right before the ship sinks, God shows up in an unexpected way. So we look at each other, me and my husband, well, we may be aligned. We'll follow you. We'll keep praying. We handle each problem at a time. So, I plan to speak more specifically on homeschooling, why I'm homeschooling. But I think the point of this message is to just show that, like, sometimes your plan is completely different from God's plan. And as of right now, I don't know what's next and how he would use me. But I think he's calling me in a different direction than I planned, which sometimes scares me. Sometimes it leaves me confused of who am I supposed to be now? What do I do now? How do I act now? But then also there's so much peace. And there's just a little bit enough where I can handle the responsibility of what he puts in front of me now. So homeschooling wasn't my plan. Stay-at-home mom wasn't my plan. Not being a working diva, owning a bunch of businesses was my plan. But I guess God can use me in that way. So I encourage others to just seek God. He will guide you no matter what the plan is, what the purpose. But you have to empty out your desires. And I guess the only way I can explain that I knew my plan wasn't working is it wasn't working. I wasn't fulfilled. I was questioning. And now it's a difference. Now I feel like I'm still surrendering to this, but it feels right. It makes sense. I can look. And sometimes what God calls you to do does not make sense. So don't be fooled by that. His ways are not our ways, lean not on our understanding. So it doesn't make sense to me sometimes, but then it also makes sense. That's so confusing. But I'm going to put Bible verses down here, and I just really want to share my experience. The reason I share all my experiences is just to share their journey, you know. So many people get on their paths, and when they make it to the top, they share looking back. And I think some people sometimes just don't believe it. And people probably don't believe me right now, but this is a journey. Hopefully, if you're on the same journey, we can take together. Or if you look back at this months later, years later, and I'm in a different place living in God's blessings and glory. I'm living in God's blessings and glory right now. You will see the path that I took and the trust and the work. You know, there's storms, there's discouragement. I feel defeated at times, but at the end of the day, I have so much peace that I'm where I'm supposed to be, especially when I go in my prayer closet and I just sit and I pray to God. I thank him. I ask for him for directions. Like I ask, what's the end goal? What's my call? Where am I going? How are you going to use me? And a lot of times I don't get answers to those questions. But then the problem presented for me, like, how are we going to pay this guy? Are we going to sink and fall? Or did we miss something? Did we not do anything? He will tell me something like, I got you. Do not worry. Peace, be still. Be still and know that I am God. And I'll pray about something specific, like say just our cell phone bill. Like I said, I don't know how we're going to pay this. Like, please show up in my life. And then it gets paid. I don't know if I should do school or not. All the pieces fall together of why I should do school and how I can do it, even though I was anxious and worried all the way up into the point of saying, okay, we're homeschooling. It falls into place. That's what gives me the reassurance. That's what gives me the peace. He answers when he calls in his timing. I can't rush his timing, even though I've tried, but that's where I get my peace at. And I just kind of ran the talk because I didn't want to plan. I'm trusting the Holy Spirit is using my words, but I hope someone can relate to that. But empty yourself out. Okay, God, this is my plan. It didn't work. I am not moving anywhere. Feels like I'm running in circles. So what do you want me to do? And once I did that and just started each step at a time, I felt relief. I felt happier. I felt less pressure, less anxiety, came out of depression. And everything doesn't make sense. I'm not sure about everything, but I have the peace that passes all understanding, and the joy of the Lord is my strength. When I feel like, okay, I did something that makes God happy today. And I may not be perfect. I've given up alcohol, and sometimes I'm like, oh, am I going to be able to sustain this forever? I honestly, right here, right now, can tell you, I don't know. I've chosen and made the commitment, but I know it's a daily walk and a daily reliance on God and not on my own strength to not have alcohol. But then I still cuss. I'm not saying this to brag, but I'm saying this to show you that you don't have to be perfect. I'm like, God, forgive me. Help me. He is not here to condemn us, beat us down, because he knows we're in flesh and we will war with our flesh and spirit all the time. He's here to give us grace and gradually shape and mold us into the people that he has called us to be, to benefit the kingdom and his glory. And I think that's a good place to end it. I hope you enjoyed it. Chime in, reach out. Have a wonderful day or night whenever you watch this.